the mental illness comes in. Maybe now you don't want to be evaluated because you want to be your sisters, right? That's where there's this.
If I'm fine, I never seen a therapist before I got married. I didn't know what it was to see a therapist. I thought I was healthy. I thought I was fine.
If you ready, I'm ready. Let's talk.
Both of them are female, so brothers, I need your support out there, please. And to my right, I had my sister Lenore. Tell us about.
Hello. I'm Lenore Brown Elf. I'm facing your photo column, and I'm now living out here in South Africa for the time being. It's like my second home.
Okay. Welcome. Yes, Kara, come on, bring it
Hi
on.
guys, my name is Kira. I am originally from Johannesburg. I lived in the States about 14 years. I'm a mom of 3 kids and a businesswoman.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here, ladies. I appreciate both of you being here. We are talking about mental health today and how it affects the melanin community. Well, really the whole world. But specifically, we're focused on how it affects the melanin community. And we touched on something in our last episode that I think is the core, and that's the lack of self-identity. So I want to hear what you guys think about that before you
So yeah, I think that all the mental illness comes from the lack of self-awareness. So it's like, it's knowing who you are, it's knowing the truth is wellness, right? Because the truth is wellness, right? The moment you find something wrong physically, the first thing you do is to go get diagnosed. And what is that? And it's, I need to go find the truth of this situation. What's actually happening in my body so that I can fix it. And until you know what that is, you're always going to be off filter. And so it's impossible for you to be mentally well if you don't have the standing to this is what wellness is, right? This is the truth. If not, you'll kind of be all over the place. I think that's some
Friends that come from our parents, right? I like to know this is who I am.
yeah.
They don't know who they are, so it's difficult.
Exactly. It's very difficult. It's difficult when you have to determine it for yourself, especially as a child. Because I always say, you can say, oh, that kid doesn't know how to act. I'm like, kids never know how to act. They learn how to act. And they're going to learn how to act based on the people, the community that's around them, the information that they do. I always say people do what they do based on anything they think they are, the information that they have, and who they think they are in the moment. Because that changes every day. I'm definitely not who I thought I was 20 years old.
How about last year?
Even that.
Now that you bring that up, that brings up an issue for me. When I was young, I had 5 sisters, no brothers. Yeah.
Wow.
Now I loved it because, I tell mom, look, don't call me in the house till let me know as eat.
Okay.
I'll come in and clean up, right?
Right.
So I love that part, but I didn't like the fact that I never got to use the bathroom. You know how you guys stay in that bath?
I could have had.
And those mirrors. But I long for it, bro. And that pain, that emptiness, wanting to connect with, gender to gender, male to male, with a brotherly to be something like me, you could bounce things off of each other and things like that. So would you identify that as an area of mental health?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's mental health because it's natural. I won't say it's mental illness because it's natural. It's natural to want to relate and to see yourself in someone around you, right? And there's levels to it because you were around all women, you wanted to see someone like yourself. Because you're like, all these people not acting like you. The world doesn't even get.
Yeah.
Because I have one brother, right? Oh, I have a second one now because my mom got me. So shout out to you. But he grew up with 4 sisters, right? So technically 3 older sisters and the twins came after him. But he dealt with that. He dealt with trying to assert himself. I am a man. I am not. So that was his trying to push toward him. And it's natural. If the issue comes in where it becomes mental illness, is when there's a lack of balance, right? Where you're male chauvinist, right? Now you're so far on the wrong side of the spectrum. Yeah. Or the mental illness comes in, maybe now you don't want to be evaluated because you want to be your sisters, right? That's where there's this imbalance, and that's where it comes out. And people don't want to hear that, especially now, because remember, years ago, transgenderism was considered a mental illness, and they no longer consider it that. But I still believe it's a mental illness. It doesn't mean you can't dress and express however you want to express, but the moment you believe that you are something that you are not, there is a level of mental illness, right? And so you could just say, I'm a man, but I like to wear dresses.
Yeah.
Right? There's more health in that. Because now you're just saying, this is how I like to present myself because of what I was around. Because I did like to see how my sisters dressed up, and I just like this, right? But it's when you are trying to attach to something and you lose the balance and you're scared in space.
And that also comes to social media. Yes. That plays a very big role in my son looking at himself and saying, Jim is a boy like I am, but he says he's a girl. So mom, I also want to be a girl. And now my son goes down the rabbit hole because of the algorithms that is pushing it to him. And now he feels he's a girl too. Because of the algorithms. And he's young. He's young. He doesn't want to. He's going to stop here.
What we say to church. Jesus. Yeah. That's not wrong. That's not wrong. That's the first place. And I'll also use this, and hopefully this can help. And this is what people ask me all the time because they know how I feel about this thing. If it is a level of mental illness. And so what do you say if your son, because I'm a 4-year-old, your son comes to you and says, well, mama, I feel like you go. I said, well, then you just begin to bring truth into the situation and you say, well, what does a girl feel? Right? Because you have to get them to begin to see the truth for what it is. There is no man on the planet who can tell you what a girl feels. You have no idea. Yeah. That would be me saying, I know what a cat feels like, because when I look at a cat, it's rubbing on something and it's licking itself. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like a cat. I feel like I want to what? Rub on myself and lick my paws.
Oh, she landing.
Paws, right? So you understand what I'm saying? I can only project what I think a cat feels like. I can only project what I think a man feels like. And because of what men deal with, I think men are not giving nearly enough credit for what they have to deal with in the everyday. And so sometimes women, we think it's easy for y'all. And sometimes men think, oh, women, it's just easy for y'all. Y'all don't see. But understanding that there's no way to have that. You just really understand what y'all deal with. It's insulting for me to just come and say, well, now I'm a man because I cut my hair off and I wear jeans and boots and now I'm a man. Right? That would be insulting. As insulting as if someone from another culture who never been through our trauma came and stepped in and said, this is who I am.
Just forget about it.
Just none of that matters. This is how I identify. And so, going back to that being really the core of all is, if you deal with truth, then you'll find health. So whether it's in your physical body, even in your emotional body. When you get all emotionally out of whack, like you have a breakup and now all of a sudden you're thinking of all the great things and I can't believe it's over. But there's a reason why it's over. If you bring truth into this, You do realize, oh, that's all not the
Facts, right? It's facts.
It's facts.
It stays black and white. Go back. Why are we here?
Why are we?
How do we get to this point? What is the reason? Period.
You know what?
Stays black and white.
I've led men's groups, from me, and there's something that I learned through interacting with these. Number one, most people don't like the truth. Number two, most people don't, especially like their own truth. They don't want to deal with their own truth. They rather deal with that periphery effect, you know, or it's because of him, her, him, they. Yeah, we don't want to take ownership for our own decision making and acting on those things that we can talk in our own hearts and minds. We just want to point fingers. I used to tell my son, say, you know, he'd tell me why he got in trouble in school. He would always talk about the other kids.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, okay, but what did you do?
Right.
And then he'd tell me that. I said, back it up. Now, before that, what did you do? Right.
Yes.
And I would show him those steps that led to the issue, right? Because he didn't want to deal with the truth.
Yes.
Right. And so I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
About the truth, because the truth, as you know,
It sets you free.
It sets you free.
I always say transparency leads to freedom and straight talk leads to clear understanding. Right? Those are my life's motto. Straight talk leads to clear understanding. Transparency leads to freedom. They're basically the same thing. Right? If you know, I'm not someone who really believes in my truth and your truth and this. I believe that there's the truth. And everything else that's not the truth is a lie. Now, how can we figure out what it is? Now, I have opinions about things, and I can live my life based on how I feel about the truth, but I can't change the truth, right? So, for example, you know, I do have a post standing in there. I work for a mental health company, and I say, you should contact them. You should talk to somebody. I've been a mental health advocate for many, many years. My first time I went to see a therapist, I was 17. I was in the home system when I was younger. Shout out to Tom. Nobody wanted to talk to him on Thursday, but I was like, I'll talk to you, Tom.
Yeah.
But it's become such a huge part of my life because I realized just having a catalyst, I'm having some cathartic experience. I can get this stuff off my chest. I can talk it out and then even answer my own questions, right? And realize where I'm going wrong with the situation. So this person in particular was like, I don't need a therapist. I've talked to 3 therapists. They all told me I don't need a therapist. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, if you don't want to go see a therapist, that's fine. But maybe you should start with the scripture. They're like, why? Well, you know, I have no problem with God. I pray every day. Okay, when's the last time you did in the scripture? Why do I say that? Because the scripture is the truth. So if you're going to sit down, you're going to read this, you're going to read yourself. You're going to see, have I been behaving in this way? Have I been crying? Last time you had a lady talked about, just thinking about the fruit of the spirit in relations. Have I been walking in kindness? Have I been walking in the works of the flesh? Have I been united?
It's a responsibility. It's accountability. It's power. Because I can read it and I'm going to turn it to how I need it to make me feel better and not the reason why he's not speaking to me or she's not speaking to me is because I was on. Right. She rolled the eyes at me first, so I'm going to speak that anyway. It's how you are going to receive it.
Usually people will put it down. Yeah. Because from my experience, it's hard to get around the truth in the scripture. Like you can move it around, and like how people would take the scripture to utilize it to enslave people. Right? Yeah. They never let the people read the scripture. They just took out pieces that fit their narrative. But if you just said, look here what this says, they're going to do like what the gentleman did. The Black Word and Birth of a Nation, oh my God, first name, Nat Turner. They're going to do what he did. They're going to read it and say, hey, this is wrong what y'all do. That's not the truth. So it's hard to get around the truth in the scripture. So most people either put them down, or they just listen to people, give them little pieces of it that'll make them feel good.
Yeah. Or that happens on Sundays.
That happens on Sundays all the time.
Yeah.
So I would say that because the truth is power. Remember G.I. Joe? Heard somebody. At the end of it, what did he say? And now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Now, what's the other half to that? Like people would say that knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power, right? Knowledge is potential power. The application of knowledge is power, right? So if you know something, so yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything, if you're not letting it really transform you.
It actually sounds to I was thinking of our class was moving actually. And it's what you said, I should tell you and this. It is, I think you're living your truth and you know the truth and you become accountable to your actions. When you actually realize who you are and the value that you bring to the earth and people can do those around you. Because as long as I don't realize my value and I don't realize the value that I bring to them or to you, I'll keep on acting foolish. I'll keep on doing foolish stuff because I don't know my value. I don't know the worth that I actually bring to the table. So once I know my worth that I actually bring to the table, I'll start walking differently, speaking differently, acting differently. I'll apply myself differently in every facet. Yeah. Every facet. Because one thing that I know, and I have written to this, when I didn't realize who I was, I had big business. I would jump up and stuff all the time. Now I'm fully committed to what I'm doing. Yeah. I didn't realize I'm actually valuable to my community, and I need for my kids. My kids, because this is generational. So I need to do this. But as long as I wasn't applying myself, I was just like my husband, my kids, the workers, anybody else. I didn't realize exactly yourself. And myself. I would go to bed like, oh my God, why did I do this? Why am I in the same cycle? Killer. You don't realize the value that you actually bring to the company, bring to the marriage, bring to the household. You need to apply yourself so that we can flourish in every facet, right? So it's really just being accountable.
1,000%.
So when we talk about that accountability, you got to back up and look at truth again.
Yeah.
Your own truth, right? I mentioned in the last session that you need to look at and deal with that man and woman in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you start dealing with him or her, there are times. Our truth is, I do need to talk to someone. I do need to talk to someone. I do need to get some things off my chest. I do need someone to listen to me.
Yeah.
But in our community, that's taboo.
Yes. And that's what I mean. Like this person that I hear so much about, I love them with the sides of my pain. When I say that you need to talk to someone, it's because I see that there's pain and it's also helped me. So I'm giving you a remedy, something that's helped me, right? At the same time, they don't want to talk to a therapist because they're like, oh, I don't want to pay somebody who I don't know to tell them my business. Okay, but then you want to maybe get inebriated and call your family member and want to vent to your family member while you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Not only does your family member not have to listen to you, but it's very hard for you to just vent your frustrations or your all of this and expect to find a safe space in a place that you probably caused trauma. This is you, because you understand what I'm saying? You might have made a volatile environment with this very same family member you want to find a safe space with. Yeah. How can they sit there and listen to you and they know you. They know that you just not taking accountability. They know that you're blaming the world. They know that you might be in a pity party. They can't receive that. They can't help you. Now, a therapist who don't know you, they might listen to you and feel the same way, like, okay, this sounds like a pity party. But they're equipped because of their study and their intentional study on the subject. They're able to hear you. They can hear where you're hurt and not just you. They can allow you to vent and then allow you to, again, answer your own questions. Right? You saying all of this stuff halfway through, then you're like, maybe if I just did it, like that. You understand what I'm saying? And the therapist is like, okay, sound good. They didn't even have to say anything. They let you work it out. But when you're trying to do that with your mom or your sister or your cousin or they're like, man, because the problem is this is what you need to do. Yeah. Because they've experienced you and you might have even hurt them. So they can't hear what we're saying. So I think getting to a place where we recognize I need to talk to someone because this is eating me up, right? What you not take care of and deal with, it's going to deal with you. It's going to eat you up. That's why even the scripture says that you should confess your faults unto you, right? And your fault might not be like, I necessarily did this to this person, but your fault might be, I accepted it, right? Your fault might be, I stayed to you. Values. Your fault might be, I didn't create a boundary, right? Values. Yeah.
Well, so there we are with our truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you sat with it once? Have you talked with it? So have you sat with somebody?
1,000%. Yeah. Multiple times over the course of my life, because I mean, someone who's traveled, you lived in different places. And of course, in the States, you have to see therapists in your state that you're living and things like that. But when I was in California, I had a therapist that was licensed in me, especially during the time of COVID, right before COVID. I was already seeing her because she worked at a company I worked at, and she worked with the lady at the company I worked with. But when I started going to something else, so people I used to, she is an elder, a sister, like she is trained in a number of different things. Even did like, some people don't agree this like past life regression, but he has talked about that deals with like your child of trying to bring things that you're dealing with. So we dealt with all of this.
And you and I did, but
that little girl,
childhood. Baby, you want to bring that 6-year-old into your marriage.
What? That's a yogi tantrum.
I went into a marriage in 2005. I never seen a therapist before I got married. I didn't know what it was to see a therapist. I thought I was healthy. I thought I was fine. These things test out. Little things turn into big things. Yeah. When you do not deal with the little things, you go into a marriage, go into your father, should become a parent. Every mother, every father should go and speak to somebody. Everybody needs to speak to somebody. Life becomes overwhelming. For me, it was a cultural difference in my marriage. Because he's American, I'm South African. The way I do things is not the way he was raised doing things. I would think that I'm right, and he's like, you're not right. I'm like, you are. Go and speak to somebody. Go and speak. There's a way you speak. There's a way you can conduct yourselves. I grew up in a household. I'm sorry, she's going to be so mad at me. Putting a business out there, but we would scream and then scream at each other, scream at Craig, have a whole big fight. And the next morning, today, we never address the issue. And he's like,
like, no.
We're going to communicate. No, ma'am. And I'm like, I don't want to speak about it right now because I thought I'd be in effect. No, I wasn't thinking that.
You're going to speak about what happens is deeper. Because if you don't speak about it, the next argument, unbeknownst to us, is going to be about it. It's going to be about the same thing you argued about 3 months ago, 3 years ago.
And I never do the same thing to my son, to my daughter, that they're going to do the same thing to their husbands, their spouses, their sisters, anybody they come in contact with.
Yeah, keep in mind, epigenetics is a thing as well. Right. So yes, the things that we're passing on, our words, our behaviors, the foods we eat, the cultures, all those things that lead to everything. But epigenetics is a real thing. So even in our body, our genes, we're passing on. Now, the best thing about epigenetics that I love is that you can change your epigenetics. So what was happening with your mama and your mama's mama that was passed on, when we talk about breaking generational curses, that's what we're talking about. You can literally change the way that you think and create a pattern of behavior, and that begins to go into your genetic makeup, into your cellular being. And then when you have children, they're dealing with it from a different way. That's why your children are like, "Mom, why are you so upset?" Like, "Mom, like, go down."
For our audience, explain epigenetics to me.
So epigenetics is pretty much what it sounds like. It's basically your gene makeup that is passed through generations. Your genes is, everyone, you have a lot of like fingerprints, right? Our DNA, all these different things that make us up. But epigenetics is the study of how we pass things on through our genes. And in that, you've learned that you can pass your traumas on through your genes. You can pass habits through your genes. You wonder why a child who's never met their biological mother or biological father is behaving a certain way, right? And people who've met their parents years later are like, wow, I do the same thing, right? Because it is passed on. So it goes back to responsibility. Just knowing that fact. Now, when you're thinking about having children or when you're thinking about dealing with your children, right? Just having that information means you can handle it different because you have no choice. It's your responsibility now. Because you done gave them a ticket time bomb. Possibly.
Still goes back to your point about the truth. So now that you know the truth, or your truth, now you can do something about it. But if you're unaware that thing is lying under the surface, you're just behaving, and you have these behaviors that are going all over.
And you're reactionary instead of responding.
It's the way you respond to things. Everything. I don't realize. So I went to America when I was 18, 19, came back. I didn't realize that I did so many years that my mom used to do, even though I lived at such a young age. But growing up, my whole 20s, I started doing things that my mom used to, even things that I don't want to do. And I'm like, I would recognize her behavior. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do that. I shouldn't be doing that. And I would catch myself doing it. And I'm like, oh, there I go. I'm doing it. I'm running. I'm doing this. I'm not doing that. Because just not even thinking about it. Not even realizing I'm just doing it.
Think about people who's dealing with depression. It's like, I don't even know why I'm depressed. But you find out that your parents and your grandparents have a history of depression. Or when we're thinking about any level of mental illness, right? Because depression is a form of mental illness. It's a more, acceptable one because it seems we're in such a crazy world that depression is obvious. But depression is basically the state of being kind of you're not really yourself. You're not meant to be depressed, right? So if we're walking around in depression, something is gone wrong. There's a thought in our mind. There's something that we're there's a way that we're seeing the world or we're seeing ourselves in relation to the world that's incorrect, right? People who have great brain levels of anxiety, same thing. That's just fear.
So if it's not, if you say if it's wrong, then if it's wrong, then it's not the truth.
That's it. If it's decided the truth or it's the lie. And when I like how you said we talk about your truth. So your truth would be there is a such thing as your truth that you think about what's happening to me that couldn't be happening to me, right? Like what's going on in my body, it has nothing to do with it. But the truth about the situation is that we both have a heart, and we both better treat our heart well. Right? That's the truth. There's no part of my truth that could say, well, I could do whatever I want to do in my heart. No, because both of us, if we don't, our heart could stop beating. That's the truth. Right? But the truth can be a certain person has a heart condition, right? So they have to do certain things for their heart that maybe you don't have to do, right? So you want to be aware of your truth and that the things that are affecting you and the way in which your environment affects you and your foods affect you. You want to know that truth so you can operate effectively, but you also want to know the truth. And the truth is we need to be healthier, eat healthier, live healthier, be kinder, treat people well, treat our children a certain way, stay away from unnecessary delusion. Right?
So I talked earlier about dealing with the man or woman in the mirror.
Yes.
So you guys talked about the therapy. So I'm going to say you might.
Yes.
So I decided, let me deal with this 3D. And you do that word, I'm going to call it word.
Yeah. It is.
It's not fun. It's not fun. And it's not pretty. Because you see some things about self, and you've been projecting this image in society. But now you're dealing with the real image. And everything's not necessarily in place. And everything's not necessarily right with you. Yeah, not, those people, not them. It's not their fault, right? And that blame game started right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Adam said that woman you gave me.
Oh, now listen.
This is not me.
Yeah. He blamed the snake. Everybody's blaming everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
So we like to do that in society. It's protection.
Yes.
But when I started dealing with that man in the mirror, that was not fun. I was about a 2.5 year journey, 2.5 to 3 years early.
Yeah.
And, I reached that place, some call the dark place of the soul.
Yeah.
So necessary.
And it's so real, though.
Yes. The dark night of the soul, I also call it like tower.
Yeah.
Right. Usually you get to that place when you kind of been in delusion and you don't realize it, and life has been trying to take you to a place of understanding. And then, okay, you don't want to listen?
Yeah.
Stop. Life will knock you down. And then you got to deal with it. And then you have to see yourself for who you are in order to get out of that hole.
Yeah.
I will say this, shameless story. So I wrote this book, and it's called The Honor of Things, A Woman's Guide to Giving Up the Dating Chase.
Okay.
Because at the time I was just dealing all this stuff with like men, but it's based off the scripture that says it's the glory of God to conceal a thing, and the honor of kings is to search out in it. So in this, I'm speaking to women or men who want to read it, but specifically like the difference between the first Adam and the last Adam. The Bible talks about. The first Adam, like he said, threw his woman up underneath the bus. Lord, it was the one that you gave me. So now I'm blaming you, God, and I'm blaming her. I was just chilling in this garden, minding my business. Right? And then the last Adam, who was Christ, takes full on responsibility, even for what he didn't do, just because of who he is, because he had the power and was the only one who had the power to take on full responsibility for the situation. So he did. And so when you run into a relationship and you meet a man who is willing to take responsibility for himself and for his household and for what he's supposed to be bringing to the world, you found the thing. And that's the last act. And that's in a nutshell what I've seen. But I think it's really important because the blame game, that's why even in our last conversation, I said, okay, whose responsibility is it? If we're the original, is it the white man's responsibility? Or is it our responsibility? You could say, Lord, the white man put us in. Yeah, but somebody also at some point sold us, right? That looked just like us, right? So whose responsibility is it? And I tell people, it might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. It might not be your fault what your parents did. It might not be your fault that you're dealing with depression, but it's your responsibility to get out of it. It's your responsibility to talk to somebody. It's your responsibility to look in the mirror and say, oh, I got this thing going on my face. Let me go to the doctor. What's that? That ain't supposed to be there. Right? If I'm been depressed for 3-4 months, bless my mom. She's since I'm a cancer survivor, survivor of so many things, domestic violence, so many things. She's amazing. She's raised 6 little children and raising kids since she was 15. And the one thing I know is that she had a stent, and she'll talk about it, where she could not get out of the jug for like every morning she would get up and it felt like something was on from the chest because she didn't want to get up. And that was something she had to deal with. At first couple of days, you might think, I'm just tired. But after a little while, you have to ask yourself, why can't I get up? And you have to ask to talk to somebody, call a sister or a brother who will say, you need to talk to the doctor, you need to pass. You understand what I'm saying? So it might not be your fault. And the thing she went through wasn't her fault. Yeah. But it is her responsibility. It was her responsibility. It is our responsibility. I work with children from kindergarten to adult, and I would tell them, you have your parents, right? And I work with youth home systems. I would say, what do you want to do now? I don't say what you want to do when you grow up. Because your parents might be a hot mess, but it's still going to be your responsibility. And I always say, excuse my language, shit gets real fast.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up at 18 and you're going to be the joker on the couch. You're going to be like, what's happening? So, yeah.
Well, my time on the couch was still for you.
Yes.
I was in college at Howard University. And I decided to go talk to someone. I will be honest. Excuse me. Oh, no, it wasn't hard. It was easy to talk. This woman missed me in terms of her conclusion, the information that she wanted to give me that would help me. Because I really felt like she allowed her femininity to get in the way. She was looking at me only as a masculine man. But no problem, because the time talking with her is what I needed.
Yeah.
It's what I needed. And I hit a place where there was like 3 different incidences really close to each other where I just wanted to rage. And I said to myself, oh, I mean, these incidents didn't take all that. You know what I mean? Yeah, why did I go through the ceiling when I only needed to go 2 inches out?
Right.
You know? And then that's when I just felt like, you know, I would say how I experienced it. I felt like my spirit said, you need help today.
Yeah.
So I sought out on campus the counseling, whatever it was. I don't recall if she's a therapist or now.
Licensed social worker.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the time talking to her was very valuable. Again, her conclusion involved. She missed me 100 miles.
Right.
I'm telling you, she missed me down.
So let's talk about that thing. Right? And maybe you experience this too. It's important to point that out. Not every therapist is for everybody.
Mm.
I would say to anyone listening to this, don't assume that your first experience with a therapist is like the bar. It might have not been the right first one, but some people dog the baby at the back end. Yeah. Right? So find the person.
And some therapists are constantly listening. Yeah. And some hard to. The first one, just listen. I'll cry and she wouldn't give me any tangible work to go home to and thank me. Hey, go practice this. Yeah. Do this and this. She'll listen to me and I would cry and then, okay, see you next week. Yeah. All right, fine. Wow. Right? But the other one, okay, Kira, this is the reason why we're here. Look at yourself, write these things down. Though in practice, that's for the next 2 weeks until I see you.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? So you have to find
the person.
Find the person.
You have to find the person.
So the first one was punching the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, or she just may not have had the skill set. She might have been new. She might have, you might have needed someone to practice a different modality. Yeah. And there are so many different. So I work for a company where we have a therapist to build their caseloads, to build their practices, to be able to be accessible to more clients and to make themselves accessible to clients, especially once you have insurance. And so whether it's a licensed marriage and family therapist, that's someone who deals with marital and family problems and they can talk to you and your children, right? But they can also speak to you individually, yeah, right? But they've also focused on family issues, right? If you're dealing with like a licensed psychologist, they're going to dig into things in a different way. You're dealing with a psychiatrist. They're going to deal with things a little different, but they're also going to be looking at maybe a medical imbalance. Maybe you need some kind of, medication management, right? Mm-hmm. So it depends upon what you need. Some people do think you can just, therapist is just somebody, I'm just going to talk to this person and they're just going to, this person should have done the work. And you want to take responsibility for looking for the type of clinician who can support what you're dealing with. Because if you're not doing that, then really you're just looking for somebody to listen to you cry. Like you say, she just let me cry. But then you realize at some point, I need somebody else to
yeah. Yeah.
Because girl, I can handle myself.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to our core identity first.
Yes.
Because it is like, and internationally in Black communities, melanin communities, yes, they have nicknames.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody.
I was literally about to say things.
G-Rock,
I promise you I was about to say
F-Rock.
Funky. Shout out to my cousin Funky. He's an old people, by the
way. So are these evidences of us being detached from our true self and picking up another identity? I'll ask that because I got a nickname coming through.
What's your nickname?
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you.
I say it's a slippery slope because sometimes it's just terms of endearment. Grandma called you baby, because she was the baby, and you know what I'm saying, tiny, because you was actually the opposite.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like really big tiny. So sometimes it's terms of endearment and it's family and it's culture. Like you said, like no other culture to give each other.
I really think it's a cultural thing too.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural. Again, the biggest thing is when there's an imbalance.
Okay.
Long as you don't get so, caught up, like, and you have to be mindful. Like, I don't say things like, oh, he's so bad, or I watch the words that I speak with my son and my nieces, my nephews, children, and people in general.
Yeah.
Usually in general, because words are important. Definitely names, because those are labels. Things of that nature, but I don't think it's trying to necessarily detach. I think, for example, like you said, with an artist talking about Prince, I don't know. I feel like I always thought that was a part of his name. I probably sound crazy as an artist myself thinking that, but maybe because of what he dealt with in his family, maybe he felt devalued, and he said, you see Prince in his videos as a young person, he was very, very assertive in his person. So he gave himself a room to make himself feel like I am Prince, right? So we can sometimes take on names to raise our value. Other times we take on personas to, usually when we take on our own personas, it is to build ourselves up. When other people give us personas, oftentimes it is to devalue.
Yes.
Unless it's people who love us and it's just a cultural.
For me, it was imbalanced. And everybody loved that dude. The nickname, dude. Meanwhile, the true me was in this, hey, I'm here. Focus me. Notice me. So when we pick up these names and we carry them, then they become that alter ego, that other person, the image that is not really truly you. And so therefore you understand when I hit that season of the Dark Night of the Soul, the work that is necessary to constantly take ownership
and strip off that person.
All of that stuff, just peel back the layers. I don't get to the point you're like, oh, I don't like them.
Sure.
But it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So healthy.
I'll give you an example. So my full name, Crystal Lenora, is named after my grandmother gave me Crystal, and my father gave me Lenora, named after her. I never liked anyone to call me Lenora because I felt like it was an old you. The only one who called me Lenora would be my Aunt Judy. Shout out to you, I love you. She would call me Lenora since I was very young. And she's an artist as well. She's a vocalist, and she would be the one that read you our shade. She's like the Getty Allen, right? And she would always tell me Lenora. It wasn't until I got older and I spoke to my godmother, whose name also is Lenora, Kobe Clark, and she talked to me about who my great grandmother was. My great grandmother's name is Lenora Chief. And this woman was so dynamic, and she was amazing. And Lenora, the name means torch, guardian. So after this conversation with my aunt, I was like, oh my goodness. And I changed as my stage name because I'm a creative performance artist, and my name is MC Fair. Someone else gave me that name because they said, he's understand or MC too. I'm something about what you said. What was to understand MC career? I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And I just went with it. But after that conversation was there, I changed my stage name to Lenora King. After my great grandmother. So they're like, well, who is this person? Why are you changing it? I'm like, technically, my name is Lenora. Yeah. And then I was able to step into this space where I'm like, yeah, I am a torch, a guiding light. I am here to help. My music gets to be that, And I was able to step into this new identity, and my life began to change after the beginning life. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this thing where I felt like it was a greater understanding of who I am, coming into more of who I am, as opposed to trying to detach and become something else. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm wondering, because it's so split, it's here in South Africa, it's in the States, all over the States. Every hood you go to, they got nothing, right? Yeah. I'm wondering if that is evidence of the fact that you don't like selves. I'm wondering.
I would disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't feel that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to disagree with that.
What do you think it is?
I'm agree with what you say, really. It's a powerful saying. For example, in the Kale community, if you eat apples, your name is apples. If you walk in the yard, it's just like that. It's nothing to do with we don't like how it or you don't like him
Right,
or I
right,
don't
right.
like him. It's literally just
Like, for example,
endearment.
if I never met her, and we was just walking past each other on the same thing, and I just really like this thing, I'm like, okay, Pink.
Okay, Pink, then you okay.
Okay, Pink.
Yeah.
Right? It's because I like it. I think it looks great, and I'm calling it out. That is something that's unique to our culture, like just melanated people across the planet, regardless of language, regardless of the language of the country. We just kind of attach to those things, especially things that we like.
Yeah.
But again, I would just say here, and I want to be mindful time, and not soapbox. I would just say that if our identity is leading us in a direction of self-deception, pain, because here's the thing, we know the truth. It's whether or not we're going to receive it is another thing. So it's like the ego. Okay, that's what's here. The ego has this like gel kind of stuff on its eye when it's first born, and then it kind of like glasses over like that, kind of like a concept.
Yeah.
But it has a directional navigational system in it. If it's flying too far away from where it's supposed to be, it literally gets like a headache. It gets a headache. Yeah.
Like with you.
You're not supposed to be going there.
Yeah.
And so that's what our emotions are, right? Emotions are not that, right? There's the emoting, right? The movement, the direction we're moving. So our spiritual movement. If you feel terrible, that's why I'm going to put a t-shirt and don't take it. I'm trademarking it on the video. And it says, smile, because it feels like crack. It feels like crack. And in that, I mean, you know that you don't like the way this feels. Look at yourself.
It's conviction. It's a conviction.
If you're listening to how you feel, if you're paying attention, that's truth. Your body, your emotions, it's telling you, we don't like this.
Yeah.
If you walk in a room and you're in tune with yourself, you can tell when you're supposed to be in that room.
Yes.
That's why black people always be like, oh yeah, we having fun. Okay, who's gonna be over there?
Okay.
Who all over there?
Yeah.
Right? We need to know the truth about the environment and if it's someplace that we can exist. And if we do that internally, mentally and emotionally, to trust ourselves, right? Trust who we are, our identity, then nobody can pull you out of it.
Stand from you though.
I call it standing on your square.
Yeah.
Stand on your square.
Yeah.
I like
on
to
business.
Business.
We stand on business.
Yes.
I like to look at the monument.
Yeah.
Okay, on one side the sun's shining, it's white, and on the other side the sun's not shining, it's black. Just because I'm talking from the black side of you, and that's what I see. This shit. So I'll take another position just to ask you if that's the whole thought and to use your feet.
Yeah.
So that's why I say.
That's why you asked.
Yeah.
Does this mean?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I love us. I'm so grateful to God that I am knowing running. I'm so grateful that I'm grateful that I was born in America, because I also realize that that's a privilege and it was on purpose, right? I don't take it for granted. I speak to people here who are trying to get there, and we have such privilege there that we don't see because we were born in such craziness. But then you come here and you realize that the color community and the melanated people here and people from Zen live here, people from Lesotho live here, they've been through stuff, so that's everywhere. If we can just identify as the original people who are the people of God, we are blessed, we are capable, we are masterful, we are culture, we are community. If we can make that our identity and not be sub-identity groups, right?
What do you think of people coming here and saying they're coming to South Africa, they're leaving America because there's no culture in America, and that's why they're coming here?
I think that they have a and I might have put this in my our threads. I think that they have had a negative or even traumatic experience with America. And I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like when you meet in the States, if you've ever had like a rich white friend.
Yeah.
And they're like, my mom, I can't stand my mom, and I hate this house, and blah, 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 blah. And then they come to your house, and you living in the room with like 6 kids, you all 7 of your brothers and sisters, and y'all sharing half a plate of food in the projects, the people shooting outside, but they living in the best situation. They got all the electronics. Shut up, mom, slamming the door.
Right.
That's what it's like to me.
Yeah.
It's like you really don't. And you know that we have culture because our culture has even reached South
The
Africa.
world.
It's reached the whole world.
Right,
Yeah.
it's reached the world.
Yeah.
So that means you've had a traumatic experience. You're not seeing even yourself for who you are, and you don't really appreciate what we've done as melanated people in America. And I would suggest that they take another look.
I would suggest that see a therapist.
Yeah.
I would suggest
Yes.
that they see a therapist. I would too. I would
Ladies,
too.
what message would you like to leave for people who are looking for, searching for mental health, a place of peace, personal peace, a place of sense of personal safety? What would you like to leave with them? How would you like to influence?
I'm going to advocate for my moms. Moms, please are pain. You feel lonely? Parenthood can be so lonely. Most times you're alone all the time. Find somebody to speak to. Find your sin as a woman. Do not get lost in being a mother. Do not get lost in trying to overcompensate for your kids because you're trying to do the most. What you are doing is enough. You are enough. You are going to get burned out. Being a wife, being a mother. I am not taking nothing away from them. Yes, they provide for us. But we are nurturers by nature. We are constantly giving and giving. Sometimes you have to realize you need to stop and just pour into yourself because you cannot give it to them. Something like that. Pour yourself up because it's gonna come into your kids. Your kids are gonna take from you and there's nothing to take. Pour yourself up, go speak to somebody, find yourself, pick up a new hobby, do something different. Find a friend, find a mom you like, speak to somebody. Especially moms, because it is scary. Like, you don't want to give something to your kids that you have nothing to do and which is taking and they're taking nothing and you are thinking and you're going to be sleeping in bed and you don't want to wake up because you don't have a purpose, you have nobody to speak to. It's okay if you miss like as a mom. It's fine. It's life. That's what happens. But get up and go and speak to somebody. That's my advice for moms, honestly.
Yeah.
How about you, Lenore?
Yeah, I would first of all 1000% checkbox everything that she said. A big part of what she said was find yourself and be okay with that you are good enough. You are, and I say this to moms as well. As a new mom, I have a 4-year-old, and I feel like I almost lost myself because I was a creative beforehand and I had to put a lot of things stuff in. That was a challenge. So definitely tap into who you truly are. Definitely tap into your spirit because ultimately you are made in the image of God, which means you really are unbreakable. You're already victorious, really running with the situation. So do that. And also know it's okay to not always feel okay. Don't feel down or shameful or guilty when you don't feel your best. Or, because your best, just do your best. And your best today is not going to be what it was yesterday. And it might be better than tomorrow or not as good. But just do your best. Be honest with yourself. This whole conversation is about focusing on truth and who you truly are. And I think that would make a difference for many women. And I definitely want to speak to melanated people. Remember that intrinsically we are amazing. That's identify with the amazing that you are, and don't try to identify with things that pull you into like delusion. I'm like all the way. I'm for a lot of things, but I'm definitely an anti-delusion.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here as well.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage the melanin community, first and foremost, don't be afraid to do your work.
Yeah.
Look at that man, look at that woman in the mirror and deal with your truth. Because on the other side of it, yes, the journey is not fun. Yes, you may hit, like I did, that season of the dark night of the soul. However, on the other side of that work is a word that I think the amazing that you're talking about, Lenore, absolutely. And that is authenticity. Authentically being yourself. There's nothing more beautiful than that.
And the value to breathe with being yourself.
Yes.
1,000.
So find yourself and then do you, be you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming into our living room today. Should I do it too?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you for coming into our living room today where we talk about the things that you talk about around your dinner table. And we do so authentically.
Yes.
That's tough.
Awesome.
We are.
That was wonderful.
Exactly. Right.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful.
That's so good. It was a little cool.
No, I'm not okay. Ooh.